The alien warlord's arrival. The night sky over Earth was calm, but only for a moment. A massive alien fleet appeared from nowhere, blocking out the stars. The ships were enormous, black, and menacing, like giant shadows moving silently in the dark. People on the ground stared up, frozen with fear. They had heard rumors about aliens but never expected to see them in their lifetimes. At the center of the fleet was the flagship, Dreadbringer. It was not just a ship, it was a symbol of destruction. Every planet that had seen the Dreadbringer had fallen. Inside the ship, the alien warlord General Zorvax stood tall, his metallic armor glinting under the ship's harsh lights. Zorvax was not just a warrior. He was a legend. He had conquered dozens of planets, leaving nothing but ashes in his wake. He believed humans would be no different. Humans, Zorvax growled, his voice echoing through the ship's command center. A primitive, soft species. This will not take long. His officers nodded, their faces stern and focused. Zorvax's race, the Threxians, was known for their strength and advanced technology. They had never lost a war. To Zorvax, Earth was just another weak planet to add to his collection. Back on Earth, alarms blared. Military bases around the world scrambled to prepare. In one of these bases, a small group of soldiers gathered for a briefing. Among them was Corporal Alex Carter, a quiet but skilled sniper. He had seen his share of battles, but nothing like this. "Listen up," said Captain Ramirez, their leader, pointing to a holographic display of the alien fleet. "We don't know what these aliens want, but it's clear they're not here to talk. Our job is to hold them off as long as we can." "Hold them off?" One soldier asked, his voice shaky. "Have you seen the size of those ships? They could destroy us in minutes." "We have no choice," Ramirez replied firmly. "Every second we delay them gives our scientists and leaders time to figure something out." Alex remained silent, his sharp eyes scanning the hologram. He wasn't one for big speeches or loud complaints. He had a simple rule: focus on the mission. But even he felt a knot of fear in his stomach as he looked at the sheer size of the enemy fleet. As Earth's leaders debated their next move, Zorvax made his. He opened a communication channel, broadcasting his message to every corner of the planet. His face appeared on screens everywhere, towering, fierce, and alien. "People of Earth," Zorvax said, his deep voice shaking the air. "I am General Zorvax of the Threxian Empire. Surrender now, and I will spare some of you. Resist, and I will destroy your world." Panic spread across the globe. People ran to shelters, hid in basements, and prayed for a miracle. Some clung to hope, while others accepted defeat. But in the military base where Alex was stationed, the response was different. "That's a load of crap," Ramirez said, shutting off the broadcast. "We're not surrendering." Alex adjusted his sniper rifle, checking its scope. He didn't say it out loud, but he agreed with Ramirez. Giving up wasn't an option. As the hours passed, the alien fleet moved closer. The massive ships hovered just outside Earth's atmosphere, casting shadows over cities. The tension was unbearable. Earth's defenses were activated. Missiles, fighter jets, and anti-air systems were all on high alert. In the command center of the Dreadbringer, Zorvax watched the humans' preparations with mild amusement. "They're trying to fight us," he said, a cold smile on his face. "How amusing." "Shall we begin the attack, General?" one of his officers asked. "Not yet," Zorvax replied, raising a hand. "Let them sweat. Fear is a weapon too." Meanwhile, Alex and his team were deployed to a remote ridge overlooking a valley where one of the alien ships was expected to land. The terrain was rocky and barren, providing little cover. Alex set up his sniper position, lying flat on the ground. His rifle was steady, and his breathing was calm, but his mind raced. He thought about his family, his little sister who loved to draw, his mother who always made pancakes on Sundays. He couldn't let them down. He had to do his part. "Eyes open," Ramirez said through the radio. We've got movement. Alex looked through his scope and froze. In the distance, the massive alien ship was descending. Its size was overwhelming, like a floating mountain. Dozens of smaller ships swarmed around it, ready to deploy troops. The sight was enough to shake even the bravest soldiers, but Alex stayed focused. His hands were steady, his aim precise. He didn't know what was coming, but he knew one thing. He would not back down. As the alien ship touched down, the ground shook. The hatch opened, and alien troops marched out, their weapons gleaming under the moonlight. They moved with precision, like a well-oiled machine. "Hold your fire," Ramirez ordered. "Wait for my signal." Alex kept his finger on the trigger, his eyes locked on the advancing enemy. He could feel his heart pounding, but he didn't let it distract him. This was it, the moment he had trained for, the moment the world needed him most. From the alien ranks, a single figure stepped forward. It was Zorvax himself, towering over his soldiers, his armor shining like a dark star. He raised his hand, and his voice boomed across the battlefield. "Humans," he declared, "your time is up. Kneel before me, or face annihilation." Alex's grip tightened on his rifle. He knew this wasn't just a battle. It was a fight for survival, for humanity's future. And as he took a deep breath, he whispered to himself, "Not on my watch." The stage was set. The war had begun. The impossible mission. The sun had barely risen, but the battlefield was already covered in shadows. Smoke from Earth's first failed strikes still lingered in the air. The humans had tried missiles and drones, but none of it had even scratched the alien ships. For the Threxians, it was a show of superiority. For Earth, it was a nightmare. Corporal Alex Carter crouched behind a boulder on a barren ridge, his sniper rifle steady in his hands. His camouflage blended perfectly with the rocky terrain, but he knew it wouldn't matter if the Threxians spotted him. Their technology could scan through stone and metal as easily as water. Alex wasn't supposed to be here. His original orders were to provide reconnaissance from afar, to observe and report. But everything had changed in the last 6 hours. "Carter," came Captain Ramirez's voice through the earpiece, sharp and urgent. "New orders. This one's off the books. High command is desperate." Alex tapped his earpiece. "Go ahead, sir. You're to stop their ground invasion at all costs. We're out of options. If we lose this position, they'll overrun the city by nightfall." Alex frowned, his grip tightening on the rifle. "Sir, with respect, stop them. Alone." There was a pause on the line. Ramirez's voice softened. "It's not just you, Carter. We've got air support prepping. But they need time. Time we don't have. You're the only one in range to slow them down. It's a long shot, but we need a miracle." Alex looked through his scope. The valley below was alive with activity. Alien troops were pouring out of dropships, setting up strange, glowing devices in a tight perimeter. Giant walkers, machines that moved like predators, patrolled the edges. In the middle of it all stood General Zorvax, issuing commands. A single human against all of that. It was suicide. "Understood, sir," Alex said, keeping his voice steady. Ramirez sighed. "I'll keep the channel open. Good luck, soldier." Alex exhaled slowly, his breath misting in the cold air. He adjusted the rifle's scope, zeroing in on the alien's defensive setup. His eyes flicked from target to target, analyzing. It wasn't random. The glowing devices, they weren't weapons. They were energy generators, feeding power to something. And then he saw it. A massive tower-like structure rising from the center of the alien camp. It wasn't just a building. It was a command hub, glowing with alien symbols. The devices on the ground were feeding energy into it, making it pulse like a heartbeat. Alex's stomach sank. He wasn't an engineer, but he knew enough to guess what it was. A portal. The Threxians were setting up a gateway to bring more troops and weapons directly from their homeworld. If they activated it, Earth wouldn't stand a chance. Ramirez, Alex said quietly, keeping his scope on the tower. I think I found their priority target. They're building a portal. The line crackled. A portal? You sure? Positive. Ramirez swore under his breath. That's it then. If you can take out the generators, you might disrupt the whole setup, but you'll only get one shot before they notice you. Alex adjusted his position, lining up his rifle with the nearest generator. The wind was steady, but the distance was extreme. Even for a sniper of his caliber, it would take a near-perfect shot. Just one shot. Alex muttered to himself, steadying his breathing. The crosshairs locked onto the glowing device. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. If he missed, the Threxians would finish the portal. If he succeeded, it would buy Earth precious time. He whispered a silent prayer and pulled the trigger. The rifle's crack echoed across the valley, followed by an eerie silence. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the generator exploded in a burst of blue light, sending shards of alien metal flying in all directions. The camp erupted into chaos. Alien soldiers shouted in their guttural language, scrambling to figure out what had happened. Zorvax turned sharply, his glowing eyes narrowing as he scanned the ridge. Human, he growled, his voice like thunder. Find them. Now. Alex was already on the move, breaking cover and sliding down the ridge. His heart pounded as alien drones zipped overhead, their scanners lighting up the rocks. He dove into a narrow crevice just as a spotlight passed over him, holding his breath. Carter. Ramirez's voice came through urgent. You hit the generator, but they're onto you. Can you relocate? Alex peeked out from the crevice, spotting another generator in the distance. It was heavily guarded now, with alien soldiers setting up barriers around it. His odds of hitting it were slim. I'll try, Alex said, crawling through the narrow gap. His body was tense, every sound amplified in his ears. As he moved, he couldn't help but think of the absurdity of the situation. He was one man, armed with a rifle and a bit of camouflage, going up against an alien army. But deep down, he knew he didn't have a choice. This wasn't just a mission, it was survival. The aliens weren't invincible. He had proved that with one shot, and as long as he had breath in his body, he would fight. The second target loomed ahead, shimmering with alien energy. Alex took a deep breath, settling into position. He didn't have much time before the aliens zeroed in on him. Just one more shot, he whispered. The stage was set, and the impossible mission had only begun. The shot heard across the galaxy. The valley was chaos. The first generator had been destroyed, but the aliens were recovering fast. Drones zipped across the skies, scanning every rock and crevice for the sniper who had dared to strike. Alien soldiers moved like shadows, their advanced armor reflecting the glow of the portal tower. And yet, Corporal Alex Carter was invisible. From his new position, Alex lay flat against the jagged terrain, his heartbeat steady. The camouflage netting over his body blended him into the rocks, but he knew it wouldn't last. The Threxians were no fools. They were closing in, inch by inch. Through the scope of his sniper rifle, Alex scanned the alien camp. The first explosion had left a gaping hole where one generator once stood, and the faintest flicker of sparks from the portal tower suggested his shot had done more than just disrupt. He had slowed them, but not for long. Ramirez, Alex whispered into his earpiece. I got eyes on the second generator, but they're fortifying it. I need confirmation. Does taking it out shut this thing down? Static crackled, followed by Ramirez's voice, tense but determined. Intel says hitting another generator could destabilize the portal completely. You'll have to make it count, Carter. You've stirred up a hornet's nest. Alex smirked, though there was no humor in it. Understood. He adjusted his scope, locking in on the second generator. It was more heavily guarded than the first. 3 alien walkers circled the area, each armed with plasma cannons. Between them, Squads of soldiers patrolled with precision, their weapons scanning every direction. This wasn't just a battle anymore. It was a message. The Threxians wanted to make an example out of the sniper who had dared to strike at their warlord. And then Alex saw him. General Zorvax. The alien warlord was walking directly toward the generator, his massive frame towering over his soldiers. His armor, etched with glowing symbols of past victories, reflected the pale light of the portal. He raised one hand, his voice booming across the valley. "Enough games. Find the human and bring them to me, alive. I will make them kneel before the galaxy." Alex's hand tightened on the rifle, his crosshairs moving to Zorvax's chest. He could take the shot. One pull of the trigger, and the warlord would be down. But his gut stopped him. Zorvax wasn't the mission. The portal was. Alex took a slow breath, steadying his aim. The wind was shifting slightly, a gentle breeze rolling down the valley. He adjusted the rifle's scope, factoring in distance and wind resistance. This shot would have to be perfect, no second chances. "Come on," Alex muttered, locking onto the generator's core. But just as he was about to pull the trigger, a sharp whine filled the air. A drone. It had spotted him. "Contact." Ramirez shouted through the earpiece. "Carter, you've been made." Alex didn't hesitate. He fired. The bullet sliced through the air, a blur of metal traveling faster than sound. For a moment, it seemed the world held its breath. And then, impact. The second generator erupted in a brilliant flash of blue light, sending shockwaves through the valley. Alien soldiers were thrown to the ground as a chain reaction rippled through the camp. Sparks and fire engulfed the portal tower, its once pulsing glow flickering wildly. Alex didn't stay to watch. He rolled out of position just as the drone fired, its plasma beam scorching the ground where he'd been lying. He sprinted across the ridge, his rifle slung over his shoulder, every muscle screaming in protest. "Nice shot, Carter." Ramirez barked in his ear. "But you've got company. Lots of it." Alex glanced over his shoulder. Alien walkers were climbing the ridge now, their massive legs crushing rocks underfoot. Drones swarmed overhead, their scanners sweeping back and forth. The Threxians were relentless. "I noticed," Alex muttered, ducking into a narrow crevice. He paused to catch his breath, reloading his rifle with practiced speed. The radio crackled again. This time, Ramirez's voice was quieter, almost hesitant. "Carter, Zorvax is on the move. He's coming for you." Alex's chest tightened. Of course, the warlord wouldn't let this go. The alien general had seen his men fall, his portal destabilized, and his pride wounded, all because of a single human. Through the cracks in the rocks, Alex saw Zorvax descending the valley. The warlord moved with terrifying purpose, his soldiers parting to clear his path. In one hand, he carried a massive energy blade that hummed with deadly power. "Human," Zorvax's voice boomed, echoing off the cliffs. "I know you're listening. You've proven yourself bold, clever, but it ends here." Alex's jaw clenched. He couldn't run forever, not with the alien army closing in on all sides. His mission was almost complete, but he wasn't out of the fight yet. Repositioning himself deeper into the ridge, Alex set his rifle back up. He wasn't aiming for the soldiers this time. He wasn't even aiming for Zorvax. His sights locked onto the final generator. "One more shot," Alex whispered. As the walkers crested the ridge and Zorvax's voice thundered again, Alex steadied his breathing, his finger hovering over the trigger. The shot that would decide the fate of the battle was ready to be fired. The hunt for the sniper. The air was thick with tension. The second generator had been destroyed, but Alex Carter knew the price of his success. He had painted a target on his back, and the Threxians were not about to let him slip away. "Attention, all units." Zorvax's voice roared over the alien comms, amplified by their technology. It echoed through the valley, bouncing off the jagged cliffs. "The human sniper is still out there. I want them alive. Bring me their weapon as proof of their failure. Alex smirked to himself as he crouched behind a large boulder, quickly reloading his rifle. Failure. He had just dismantled their precious portal. But the weight of the situation pressed on him. He was outnumbered, outgunned, and the enemy was closing in fast. Above him, alien drones circled like vultures, their glowing scanners sweeping the ground. On the ridge below, armored squads of Threxian soldiers advanced methodically, their steps synchronized and precise. The eerie hum of a walker's legs moving in the distance told him he had no time to waste. Ramirez, Alex hissed into his earpiece, his voice low. Status on reinforcements. Still in the air, Ramirez replied, his voice laced with urgency. They're 10 minutes out, Carter. You need to stay alive until they get there. 10 minutes. Alex muttered, peeking out from his cover. Might as well be an hour. He scanned his surroundings, his mind racing. The ridge he had used for cover was quickly becoming a death trap. The Threxians were closing in, boxing him into a narrow stretch of rocky terrain, with no easy escape routes. The drone's hum grew louder. One of them passed overhead, its spotlight sweeping perilously close to Alex's position. He ducked lower, pressing himself into the shadows of the boulder. He needed a plan. Alex's fingers brushed against the pouch strapped to his belt. Inside were a few smoke grenades, a knife, and a small device, a signal scrambler. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. Time to even the odds, Alex muttered. He pulled the pin on a smoke grenade and tossed it over the boulder. A canister landed with a metallic clink before erupting in a thick cloud of gray smoke. The drones immediately reacted, their scanners flooding the area with red lights. But Alex wasn't waiting around. Using the smoke as cover, he sprinted toward a cluster of jagged rocks further up the ridge. His boots crunched against the gravel, every step sending a pang of anxiety through his chest. The Threxians didn't take long to respond. Plasma bolts streaked through the smoke, searing the air around Alex. He ducked and rolled behind a rock, his breath coming in short bursts. Human, a guttural voice shouted from below. One of the Threxian squad leaders. You cannot hide forever. We will find you. Surrender, and your death will be swift. Alex snorted. Thanks, but I'll pass. He pulled out the signal scrambler and activated it. The device emitted a high-pitched whine, disrupting the drone sensors. The nearest drone wobbled in midair, its scanners flickering before it veered off course and crashed into the rocks. That's one, Alex said to himself, moving further up the ridge. But the Threxians were relentless. As Alex climbed higher, he could hear the heavy footsteps of the walkers closing in. The ground trembled slightly with each step, and the sound of mechanical joints creaking sent shivers down his spine. He reached a narrow ledge overlooking the valley. It was a dead end, nowhere else to run. But Alex didn't panic. He scanned the terrain below, noting the positions of the enemy squads and the approaching walkers. All right, he murmured, pulling out his rifle. One last trick. He adjusted the scope and aimed at a pile of loose rocks perched precariously on a nearby cliff. The Threxian squad was moving directly beneath it, their focus on the ridge where Alex had been spotted earlier. Alex steadied his breathing, lined up the shot, and fired. The bullet struck the pile, sending the rocks tumbling down in a roaring avalanche. The Threxian squad shouted in alarm, their formation breaking as the debris scattered them. The distraction bought Alex a precious few seconds. He turned his attention to the walker. It was closer now, its massive form casting a shadow over the ridge. Its cannon swiveled, locking onto Alex's position. Come on, Alex muttered, loading his last armor-piercing round into the rifle. He took aim at the walker's exposed joint, a small, vulnerable spot between its leg and main body. The walker fired first. A plasma bolt struck the rocks inches from Alex, the heat searing his face. He didn't flinch. He pulled the trigger. The bullet struck true. The walker's leg buckled, sparks flying as the massive machine toppled to the ground. It let out a mechanical groan before exploding in a burst of flame and smoke. Direct hit. Ramirez's voice crackled in his ear. Carter, you're clear for now, but they're still coming. Reinforcements are 3 minutes out. Can you hold? Alex wiped the sweat from his brow, his eyes scanning the horizon. The Threxians weren't giving up. They were regrouping, their forces tightening the noose around him. I'll hold, Alex said, his voice steady despite the odds. As the alien forces closed in, Alex crouched behind the rocks, his rifle at the ready. He wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. He was fighting to show the Threxians what humans were capable of. And as long as he had breath in his body, he wasn't going down without a fight. The alien warriors' challenge. The battlefield had grown quiet, too quiet. The drones had pulled back, the soldiers had stopped advancing, and the walkers stood like silent sentinels on the ridgeline. Alex Carter crouched behind a shattered boulder, his breathing slow, his rifle steady. He'd been hunted relentlessly for hours, and now it had stopped. Something wasn't right. His earpiece crackled, Ramirez's voice cutting through the eerie silence. Carter, status report. What's happening out there? Alex scanned the valley below, his sharp eyes searching for any movement. I don't know, sir. It's like they've paused. No soldiers, no drones. It's like they're waiting for something. As if in answer, a deep, thunderous voice echoed across the valley. Human. The word carried weight, vibrating through the air like a challenge carved into stone. Alex froze, his heart pounding. He knew that voice. It was General Zorvax. You have proven yourself skilled, clever, dangerous, Zorvax continued, his tone laced with both respect and disdain. But now, it is time to end this game. Alex peeked over the boulder, his eyes narrowing. In the center of the valley, Zorvax stood alone. His towering frame, clad in gleaming black armor, was illuminated by the flickering remnants of the portal. His energy blade hummed with power, casting an eerie glow around him. The alien warlord raised his voice, addressing Alex directly. Face me, human. Show me if your courage matches your skill, or will you cower in the shadows, like prey awaiting the predator? Alex's jaw tightened. The taunt was calculated, designed to force him into the open. But it wasn't the words that unsettled him. It was the calm confidence in Zorvax's tone. This wasn't a trap set by a desperate enemy. It was a challenge from a predator who had no doubt he would win. Carter, don't even think about it, Ramirez warned through the earpiece. This is exactly what he wants. Stay hidden and wait for backup. Reinforcements are almost there. But Alex didn't respond. His mind was already racing, weighing his options. The silence of the battlefield wasn't just eerie, it was strategic. If Zorvax had pulled back his forces, it meant he was confident enough to face Alex alone. Or worse, it meant the alien general wanted to make an example of him. Carter, talk to me. Ramirez's voice was sharp now, almost desperate. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, Alex said slowly, that he won't stop until I answer him. Sliding his rifle onto his back, Alex adjusted the straps of his gear. His fingers brushed against the small knife on his belt, a weapon that suddenly felt laughably small compared to Zorvax's energy blade. Carter, don't do this, Ramirez pleaded. It's suicide. Hold your position and let the reinforcements deal with him. But Alex knew the truth. If Zorvax wanted him, he'd get him, one way or another. Running wasn't an option. The Threxians weren't just fighting a war. They were fighting to send a message to the galaxy. And Alex, he was about to send one back. He stepped out from behind the boulder, standing tall against the backdrop of the shattered valley. The wind whipped through his hair, carrying with it the faint smell of smoke and metal. He walked forward, his boots crunching against the gravel, until he was in full view of the alien general. Zorvax tilted his head, his glowing eyes narrowing as he took in the sight of the human sniper. So, you accept, he said, his voice calm and cold. Good. At least you have the courage to die with honor. Alex stopped a few meters away, his hand resting on the grip of his knife. I'm not here to die, he said, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at the edges of his mind. But I'm not running either. Zorvax's lips curled into a predatory smile. Bold words for such a fragile creature. The alien warlord activated his blade with a deep hum, the energy radiating heat as it cut through the air. He pointed it at Alex. Show me, human. Show me why your kind believes they deserve to survive. Alex didn't move. His mind raced, analyzing every detail of the terrain around him. The rocky ground, the jagged cliffs, the remnants of the destroyed generators, all of it could be used. He couldn't match Zorvax in strength or size, but this wasn't a battle of brute force. It was a battle of strategy. Zorvax lunged first. The ground shook under the weight of his charge, his blade slicing through the air with deadly precision. Alex dodged to the side, rolling behind a cluster of rocks as the blade slammed into the ground where he had been standing. Sparks flew, and the rocks cracked under the impact. You run already, Zorvax taunted, his voice echoing through the valley. Alex didn't respond. He moved quickly, keeping low as he circled around the alien general. He needed to stay unpredictable, to turn Zorvax's size and arrogance against him. From behind the rocks, Alex grabbed a small flashbang grenade from his pouch. He pulled the pin and tossed it over the boulder. The grenade exploded with a blinding light and a deafening bang, disorienting Zorvax for a split second. It was all Alex needed. He darted out from cover, closing the distance between them. His knife flashed in the dim light as he slashed at the exposed cables on Zorvax's armor. Sparks flew, and the alien general roared in anger, swinging his blade wildly. You dare, Zorvax snarled, his voice filled with rage. I dare, Alex shot back, rolling out of reach of the blade. The battle continued, a tense and desperate game of cat and mouse. Zorvax's power was overwhelming, but Alex's agility and cunning kept him alive. Each strike, each feint, each move was a test of will and endurance. As the fight dragged on, Alex could feel the odds shifting. Zorvax wasn't invincible. He was powerful, yes, but he was also arrogant. And that arrogance might just be his downfall. For the first time, Alex allowed himself to think. Maybe, just maybe, he could win. A duel of minds and skill. The valley was a battleground of silence and anticipation, broken only by the faint hum of Zorvax's energy blade and the crunch of gravel beneath Alex's boots. They stood several meters apart, circling each other like predators testing their opponent. Zorvax's glowing eyes locked onto Alex, studying every twitch, every breath. The human had already surprised him twice, first with the destruction of his portal, then by accepting a challenge no other species had dared to. But Zorvax wasn't impressed yet. You are clever, human, Zorvax said, his voice calm and cutting. But cleverness only delays the inevitable. Strength is what decides wars. Alex didn't answer. His mind was racing, analyzing Zorvax's movements, his stance, the way he carried his blade. He could see it now. Zorvax wasn't just a brute. He was a strategist, a warrior who had fought and won countless battles. But Alex had something Zorvax didn't: desperation. Desperation made humans unpredictable. You talk too much, Alex finally said, his tone steady. He shifted his weight slightly, his knife held low in his right hand. Zorvax tilted his head, amused. And you think too much. Shall we see how long that lasts? The alien warlord moved first, closing the distance in a single, terrifying stride. His blade swept through the air in a wide arc, the heat from its energy searing Alex's face. Alex ducked low, the blade missing him by inches. He rolled to the side, coming up on one knee and slashing at Zorvax's leg. The knife scraped against the warlord's armor, leaving a shallow cut but drawing no real damage. Zorvax turned, faster than Alex expected, and kicked out with a force that sent Alex sprawling. He hit the ground hard, his ribs screaming in pain. "You are fast," Zorvax said, stalking toward him. "But you lack power." Alex scrambled to his feet, his breathing heavy. The warlord was right. In a head-on fight, Alex couldn't win. But this wasn't just about strength. It was about using every resource, every advantage. His eyes darted to the terrain around them, the jagged rocks, the unstable cliffs, the smoldering wreckage of the alien walker. If he couldn't outfight Zorvax, he could outthink him. As Zorvax lunged again, Alex sidestepped, using the warlord's momentum against him. He tossed a small explosive charge behind Zorvax, timing it perfectly. The explosion wasn't powerful enough to harm the alien directly, but it sent a cloud of dust and debris into the air, obscuring Zorvax's vision. Alex used the distraction to climb higher up the ridge, putting distance between them. He needed a better position, somewhere he could turn the terrain into a weapon. Zorvax emerged from the dust cloud, his armor scratched but intact. "Running again, human," he called, his tone mocking. "You only delay the inevitable." Alex didn't respond. He reached the narrow ledge overlooking the valley. The drop behind him, a sheer fall into jagged rocks. He glanced at his surroundings, calculating. The ledge was unstable, the rocks loose and ready to collapse with the right push. Zorvax followed, his heavy steps causing the ground to tremble. "You have nowhere left to run," he said, raising his blade. "Your clever tricks end here." Alex smirked, gripping his knife tightly. "That's what I'm counting on." Zorvax lunged again, his blade cutting through the air with deadly precision. Alex dodged, but this time, he didn't move away. He moved closer. He ducked under the swing, slamming the hilt of his knife into a weak spot on Zorvax's armor. Sparks flew, and the warlord stumbled slightly, surprised by the bold move. Alex didn't stop. He grabbed a fist-sized rock from the ground and smashed it into the same spot, his movements relentless. "You think humans are weak," he growled through gritted teeth. "Let me show you what survival looks like." Zorvax roared, grabbing Alex by the arm and throwing him backward. Alex landed hard, skidding dangerously close to the edge of the cliff. He groaned, his vision swimming, but he forced himself to stand. The warlord advanced, his blade raised. "Enough games," he said. "You fought well, human, but this ends now." Alex's eyes darted to the loose rocks above the ledge. His mind raced, formulating a plan in seconds. He let his body go limp, feigning exhaustion. Zorvax raised his blade for the final strike. And then Alex moved. With the last of his strength, he rolled to the side and threw his knife with pinpoint accuracy. It struck a support rock above the ledge, sending the entire section collapsing. The ground beneath Zorvax gave way, and the warlord fell, his massive frame crashing into the rubble below. Dust and debris filled the air, and for a moment, there was silence. Alex stumbled to his feet, coughing. He peered over the edge, his heart pounding. Zorvax lay among the rubble, pinned but alive. The warlord's glowing eyes locked onto Alex, burning with fury and something else. Respect. "You fight like no other," Zorvax said, his voice strained. "Perhaps I underestimated your kind." Alex didn't reply. He retrieved his rifle, slinging it over his shoulder. "Tell your people," he said quietly, "humans aren't prey." As he turned to leave, the faint sound of engines filled the air. Reinforcements had arrived. The duel was over, but the message Alex had sent would echo far beyond the battlefield. The legend is born. The battlefield was silent, save for the faint hum of Earth's reinforcements arriving in the distance. Smoke curled from the shattered remains of the portal generators, and the rocky cliffs bore the scars of the brutal duel that had just unfolded. Corporal Alex Carter stood at the edge of the collapsed ridge, his chest heaving with exhaustion. Dust clung to his sweat-soaked face, and his rifle hung limply from his shoulder. Below him, General Zorvax lay pinned beneath a massive slab of debris, his once imposing armor cracked and sparking. For a moment, the two warriors stared at each other. "You fought like no other," Zorvax said, his voice strained but still carrying the weight of his authority. "You are not what I expected from your kind." Alex wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, his breathing still labored. He didn't reply immediately. Instead, he stepped closer, keeping a wary eye on the fallen warlord. "Expected us to roll over, didn't you?" Alex said finally, his tone quiet but firm. "To surrender. To be just another weak species you could add to your empire." Zorvax's glowing eyes narrowed. "You misunderstand, human. I do not conquer for sport. I conquer to ensure strength. Weakness spreads like a disease, and the galaxy must be purged of it." Alex crouched, his gaze level with the Threxian general. "Strength isn't just brute force. It's not walking into a fight thinking you've already won. Strength is surviving when the odds are stacked against you. Strength is refusing to give up, no matter what." Zorvax was silent for a moment, his breathing heavy. "Perhaps there is truth in your words. But this changes nothing. My fleet still surrounds your world. My soldiers still outnumber yours 1,000 to 1. Alex stood, gripping his rifle tightly. "Your fleet doesn't matter," he said, his voice steady now. "What matters is what happens next. You go back to your empire and tell them what you've seen here. Tell them humans don't kneel. We don't break. And if they come for us again, we'll fight harder." The warlord tilted his head, a flicker of curiosity crossing his face. "You are bold, human. But boldness is not enough, Toe." Alex cut him off. "Boldness is what got me here. And boldness is what will keep us free." Behind him, the sound of approaching gunships grew louder. Earth's reinforcements had arrived, their engines roaring as they descended into the valley. Soldiers in exosuits and armored vehicles poured onto the battlefield, securing the area. "Carter." Captain Ramirez's voice crackled through Alex's earpiece. "We've got eyes on your position. Are you secure?" Alex tapped the earpiece. "Secure enough. But I've got company." The gunships hovered above, their weapons trained on the pinned warlord. A squad of Earth soldiers rushed to Alex's side, their rifles aimed at Zorvax. "Stand down," Alex ordered, holding up a hand. The soldiers hesitated but obeyed, lowering their weapons. "You're letting him live?" one of them asked, incredulous. Alex nodded, his eyes never leaving Zorvax. "This isn't just about one battle. It's about sending a message. He needs to go back and tell his people that we're not what they think we are." Zorvax chuckled weakly, a deep, rumbling sound. "You think mercy will win you respect? Mercy is a weakness, human." "No," Alex replied, his voice unwavering. "It's a choice, one you'll remember long after this battle is over." The gunships began to lift debris from Zorvax's body, their engines straining under the weight. As the warlord was freed, he stood slowly, his massive frame battered but unbroken. He looked down at Alex, his glowing eyes narrowing. "You are an anomaly." "Alex Carter," Zorvax said, using his name for the first time. "A single human who defied an empire. Do not think this is over, but know this. When I return, it will not be with disdain. It will be with respect and caution." Alex stepped back, allowing Zorvax to walk past him toward the waiting gunships. The Earth soldiers watched in stunned silence as the alien warlord climbed aboard, his towering presence still radiating power despite his defeat. As the ship's engines roared to life, Zorvax turned to face Alex one last time. "Your people are not prey," he said, his voice carrying a tone of reluctant admiration. "Perhaps they never were." The ship ascended, disappearing into the smoky sky, leaving behind a valley littered with the remnants of battle. Ramirez's voice crackled through the comms again. "Carter, what the hell just happened?" Alex smiled faintly, slinging his rifle over his shoulder. "Just sent the galaxy a message, sir." As the reinforcements secured the area, Alex walked away from the battlefield, his silhouette framed by the rising sun. The whispers started almost immediately, soldiers exchanging stories of the sniper who had brought down an alien warlord, the lone human who had turned the tide of an invasion. The name Alex Carter began to spread, carried by the wind to every corner of the earth, and soon it would reach the stars, becoming a legend that would echo across the galaxy. For the first time, the galaxy knew humanity was here to stay.